Hey guys, how's it going? It is Dennis, and we're back with our monthly video talking about the updates for how much we've earned for the month of June from our dividends, from our options, and in total, how much have we earned in the month of June from all our different positions. So, as always, love being transparent as possible. So, we have all these sheets open to take a look at option trades, separate dividends for weeklies, separate dividends for YieldMax, and everything of that sorts. So let's go ahead and get straight into it, starting off for OHI, Stag and Main getting no dividends for the month of June. Stag and Main we have sold out of. OHI we continue to hold, but it's a quarterly paying ETF or stock, so therefore we didn't receive any dividends for the month of June as we got it in May. So we're going to go straight into YieldMax ETFs. We're going to go ahead and go into our YieldMax ETF sheet and go ahead and take a look at how much we've earned. So, starting off with TSLY. In June, we had 488 shares, or 488.7143 to be exact, and we received 40.28 per share of a distribution, right? So it's lower than May, lower than April, lower than March, and as you can see, it's the lowest we've had in 2025. But we got 40.28, which gave us $196.85. Of course, it is lower than all the ones we've received so far for 2025. But of course, volatility has been down, premium has been down, and you'll see this with all the other ETFs. It's kind of a thing that's been happening recently. YieldMax even addressed it themselves, so it is what it is. But $196.85 is what we've earned. That totals up to $1,680.11 earned so far for the year of 2025, and we're halfway through. So that means if we continue at this pace, we should have around $3,200 in dividends earned from TSLY. That is less than we would have earned in 2024 of $4,305, but that's assuming we don't get this high dividend in December, or assuming that we don't increase our share count, assuming we don't increase our dividend distribution, and all these assumptions. So assuming it stays consistent with what it is right now, we will be at 3,200. Of course, share count will increase probably, dividend distribution might increase, and of course, we might get that end of the year bonus for all the tax purposes that they have. So, $1,680.11. Total distribution so far for the year, $3.5827. Moving on to AMZY. AMZY earned us $211.11. We had a distribution of $59.55. And we increased our share count, as you can see, from January all the way to May. We were sticking at 316, but in June I bought more shares of AMZY, and we have 354 shares now of AMZY, which gave us $211.11. This is higher than the previous months, except of May, which we had the 79.63, and of course the distribution per share was also higher than all previous months except for May. This leaves us with AMZY so far in 2025 earning us $1,049.90, total distribution of $3.2457 per share, and of course we're currently sitting at 354 shares. If we compare that to 2024, in 2024 we earned $2,176.87 from AMZY, and the total distribution was $9 per share. So we're probably going to get a smaller share per share distribution for AMZY. It's probably going to be around $6, assuming once again we don't get an end of the year distribution or high distribution. But our dividend return should be higher, assuming we continue to add shares into AMZY. If we don't, then it might be similar to what we had last year. So that we'll have to see. Moving on, of course, to SPYI. SPYI, $94.53. $31.19 per share, and sitting still at 303 shares. Continuing to get that $90 to $100 range of dividends earned. Of course, once again, in May, we had a crazy dividend of $197.37. And we did have a high distribution of $65.12. Besides that, all the other months were all around 30 cent mark, except of January, which was at 28. So we're staying consistent with the 30-cent range from SPYI. Total distribution per share of $2.25 and $681.49 earned so far from SPYI, which is almost beating what it was in 2024 of $798.82. So we are getting close, or actually we will beat 2024 distributions for AMZY. So that's interesting to see. Let's go ahead and take a look at GUI. GUI, we got $133.26, $39.78 per share, and 334 shares, still holding strong for the year so far. The only time we added was we added 10 shares back in February, and from there we've been holding at 334. So we got $133.26. Distribution has increased from the month prior, the month prior, the month prior. So this has been our highest distribution so far from a GUI for the year, sitting at $39.78. This leaves us with $721.65 earned so far for the year, or $2.1641 distributed per share. And this is coming close once again to beating last year's of $967.13 with a distribution of $5.4452. So that's looking good for GUI. Let's go ahead and move on really quick to AMD. Let me get my cat out of the way. Looking at AMD, we received $112.95 from AMD, $46.29 per share. So this is double pretty much of what we got in April and in March. We did not beat what we got in May, but once again, May was just a crazy month for dividends. Received crazy high dividends. And this will show in the monthly chart of seeing why the performance for this month was less than last month. But that is, you'll see in a second. But we stayed strong at 244 shares, $46.29 and $112.95. Total distribution earned so far for 2025 is $586.17. And total distribution per share is $2.4741. We take a look at 2024. We did buy AMD quite late into 2024, and that only earned us $175.32. But we did have a high distribution of 92.81, and of course the value of the shares did drop. So therefore the distributions per share did drop as well, or eroded. Now, let's take a look at YMAX. And to take a look at YMAX, we're going to look at the weekly chart. So June, 794 shares is how much we ended off in June, 794.5229. Our total distribution was $64.96. And we got a $496.85 income from YMAX, or distribution from YMAX. And that was a negative 17.54% month-over-month growth from last month, where we got $602.56. And of course, we did have 5 weeks of payments. So if we didn't have this 5th week of $140, it would have been a lot closer, and actually would be quite similar if we go ahead and delete this. Yep, you could see that we would actually be earning more for this month than if we didn't have this 5th week. We would be earning more this month. So because of that 5th week, there is that bias, and therefore increase that income for the month of May. Also, we did add a bunch of shares for this month. As you can see, we went from 695 to 780 and 790. So we did add a bunch of shares. So therefore, that is also the reason for why our income would be higher than last month if there wasn't for that 5th week. So a lot of biases to consider. But looking at the week-to-week chart, we can see week 1, 695 earned us $119. Week 2, we had 785 shares, earned us $141. 790 for week 3 earned us $112. 794 earned us $122. And we had a pretty similar distribution, 17, 18, low of 14, 15, and then of course we'll see what we get for next month of July. We had a negative 14.91% week over week. If we take a look between week 1 of June and week 5 of May, 119 to 140. We had 141 to 119, an 18% increase. 112 to 141, a negative 20% decrease. And 122 to 112 of a 9% increase. So similar to what we've been seeing recently, we've been seeing increase, decrease, increase, decrease, increase. It's just constantly repeating. We've had months such as, if we take a look, let's not go up too high. We take a look at April, we had 3 weeks of increase and only 1 week of decrease. So, but besides that, even in January, we had 4 weeks of decrease and only 1 week of increase. So, week over week. So this is kind of the pattern that I've been seeing with my portfolio, at least, of how it's been trending with income. So let's go ahead and go back to the total. And we can see that for the year so far, 2025, we've earned $2,537.58 from YMAX. Total distribution of $4.523 or 0.523 per share. We're sitting at 794.5229 shares. Total distribution, as mentioned before, for this month was $64.96, and that earned us $496.85. And the total income from YieldMax ETFs alone was $1,245.55. If we take a look at that compared to last month, of course, it's a negative 27.35% decrease. Last month, we earned $1,714.44. But it is an increase from prior months. So as you can see, we are still consistently increasing our dividends in YieldMax, in the YieldMax side of the portfolio, and in general, all of the portfolio. So we went from 1,008 to 1,015. Of course, we had the high bump in May, and then we went to 1,245. So we are consistently increasing month over month. Of course, there's months like March where it's a little bit low, but still there is that consistent increase continuing to grow and grow and grow. And with that, from the YieldMax side of the portfolio, we've earned so far $7,256.89. If we take a look and compare that to last year, we earned at the end of the year $9,995.08. So we are getting close. Actually, we will be beating last year's income, and that is because, of course, to addition of shares, addition of positions, right? So we added more into AMZY. And like I said, it's just continuing to add share count and share value. And that's either with reinvestments of the dividends that we earn or with, of course, option income going into it. Many reasons, but as you guys may or may not know, I'm also taking some of the money that I'm earning from these dividends and siphoning into SPYI, JEPQ, BTCI, which you guys will see in a second, which I made a video about. So there is share increase. It's not 100% share increase. It's 50% roughly, 25% sometimes, or maybe nothing at all for some of these ETFs, as you guys could see. But still, we're continuing to have increase in income. So let's go back to the main chart. Aptly $94.53, TSLY $196.85, AMZY $211.11, GUI $133.26, AMD $112.95, and YMAX $496.85. HTGC did not pay us anything. Of course, quarterly paying ETF did not pay us anything. EFC paid us $18.03, continuing to increase month over month. DHS, we sold out of. SCHH, we sold out of. RITM did not pay us because it's a quarterly paying ETF. And of course, we have, let's not show us too much, we have QDTE, which paid us $254.70. So go ahead and take a look at that as well. QDTE, 317 shares so far, sitting at 64.44, and 0.8048 was our distribution per share for the month of June. $254.70 is how much we've earned for the month of June, and that's a negative 14.14% decrease from May, which was $296.65 earned. But also, like mentioned before, we did have a fifth week of payment, and if we delete that, we would actually be up 10.84%. So of course, there's that bias to be considered. And we did not add as many shares as we did with YMAX. We actually continued to just reinvest the dividends back in 50-50 and still continued to get growth. And like I mentioned before, if we didn't have the fifth week, then we would be up 10%. So week one, 315 shares, 2077 distribution, earned $65.45. Week two, 316 shares, 1458, earned $46.09. Week three, 316 shares, but now it's 7117, earned 2047 distribution, earned $64.83. Week four was 317, 64.44, and we got a 24.66 distribution per share. This is this week at the recording and posting of this video, and received $78.33. And of course, like I mentioned before, similar situation with this one. 2 weeks of negative, 2 weeks of positive. Of course, we also had 3 weeks of positive here in May. But besides that, it's negative 2.11% from the week prior of May, 29.58% decrease from the first week to the second week. And then we had 40% increase, 20% increase after that. We had that low week of 1458 distribution of week 2 in June. So that is Roundhill QDTE. We got JEPQ, which paid us $36.85, as you can see, increased from month over month, 24.67 to 31.77 to 36.85. And this is due, of course, to my weekly paying ETFs. QDTE is being siphoned into JEPQ. So everything I make from QDTE gets split 50-50. So, for example, right now for this week, $78.33, it'll be split 50-50. Half of it will go back into QDTE. Another half will go into JEPQ. And I'll continue to raise my share count and therefore increase my dividends. SPYI, same thing, 22.95 to 44.58 to 50.51, right? So we made an increase month over month. We're at $50.51. And the reason being is we're using our YieldMax ETFs for this week example. $122.99 from YMAX will be split in half. That means $60, roughly $61 will go into YMAX, and the other $61 will go into SPYI, which will buy us roughly another share to add on. And now we have BTCI. Yes, I've mentioned this in the video prior to this, or maybe I think it was a week or two ago. I mentioned this, that we will be buying BTCI, and I have purchased BTCI. Currently, we hold only 3 shares, but I'll continue to add into it until it gets to roughly 2 to 2.5% of my portfolio. That's what I'm willing to allocate into Bitcoin, or into a Bitcoin-based investment, which also ends up paying me dividends. So $4.33 is what we're earning from BTCI, or what we earned for BTCI for the month of June. And I'll be really interested to see how this performs in the long term, especially if Bitcoin maybe dips, or if it doesn't, it continues to grow. Hopefully it does. I would love to see how this performs over time. And of course, all these JEPQ, SPYI, and BTC are getting reinvested back into themselves. So none of these dividends are taken out as income or split 50-50, 25-25. They're all reinvested back into themselves. So these 50-51 will buy itself SPY another share. JEPQ will buy JEPQ will buy itself roughly half a share, and BTCI will barely buy anything for itself, but continuing to reinvest back into itself. So for the total from dividends for the month of June, we earned $1,609.97. This is lower than the month prior of May of $2,194.07. Of course, like mentioned before, we had high dividends in the month of May. We also had 5 weeks of dividends from the weeklies. As you could see, we had 602 from YMAX, 296 from QDTE, and we had high dividends from all the other ETFs, like TSLY with 361, like AMZY with 185, like APLY with 197. So we received quite high dividends last month. So therefore, that makes sense. The big difference from 2,000 to 1,600. But look at the important number. The month prior to that, we got $1,456.82, and then we are still growing consistently. That's all that matters. Yes, there could be variations, but as long as we're growing consistently month over month, and even if it skips a couple months, right? So we look down, we can see 1358, 1456, 1609. And like I said before, we had a variation here, right? So we had 1340 up to 1450, down to 1350, back up to 1450, and now 1609. So there's consistent growth. It continues to grow the dividend side of the portfolio. And of course, that is good to see, because that's what you want from your dividend side. You don't want to stay stable, because stability means there's no growth and you're just getting back all the money you initially invested. Here we can see that there is growth as well as dividend income. So options now. We're going to look at options. TNA, $270. SPY, $622. You might be asking, why is it so low? Well, TNA position, we have officially exited. This TNA position right here, these 6 contracts have been officially closed. I did not mark it here, but they have been closed. We made these $270. I sold the lower half of my TNA contracts, the 6 lower half, bought back the upper 6, and that's it. Made my $270, exited the position. I am done with TNA for now. Not looking to get back into anytime soon. Now, SPY. As you guys might have heard in one of my videos this month, I talk about how my SPY position was way in the money. And it was. I had to buy back that position. I did that by rolling the lower part, one of my lower contracts. I rolled my March contract, which was sitting at 540. I rolled that up to 550, earned myself roughly $1,000 in income, and then bought back my SPY contract that was way in the money. I bought back that contract, and then as you can see, on June 9th, I started trading that contract once again. So as you can see now, there's also closed positions. The reason for that being is because now I do not keep my positions open over the weekend. I've decided that it's not worth my risk tolerance to keep these positions open over the weekend. So therefore, I am now closing positions before the weekend starts. So as you can see, I earned $218, closed it for $4 at the end of the week. Next week, opened it up for $232, closed it for $10. Then opened another one up for $186 expiring this week. And actually, this position I opened up for 606. I kind of opened it up at a bad timing. I opened it up in the morning of Monday of what date was this? The 23rd. And the market actually went up later in the day. So now, Thursday of recording this video of June 26th, the market is way above 606. It's roughly at 612 as of recording this video, 611, 612. So yeah, we are in the money once again, but we still have Friday to wait it out and see where it goes. And if it does end up in the money, then we will roll up our second lower contract that we have that expires in December. We could roll that up, earn income actually. So roughly, I was looking at it, would be roughly like a $1,200 profit roll. Take that $1,200, then roll this 606 up to roughly 620, which would be like $100 per contract. So that would offset us by 200, meaning we'll be able to roll up, pay roughly $800 to $900. That will be minus off the $1,200 we earn roughly in profit, and we'll be left with $300 in profit. So the trade was still pretty profitable. We'll just be moving our lower position upwards, and it'll still be in around the 80 delta or more, the lower position. So that is still, in my eyes, a safe position. 80 delta, 80% chance of profit at the end of the term or at the end of the year. And for me to be break even on that position, the SPY needs to be roughly around 300, I think 630. So that's roughly 3% away. So if we're able to get that 3% growth by December, then I'll be break even on that position. If not, then I'll just roll it to next year like I'm planning to do anyways, and maybe pay a little bit upfront, but I'll gain myself another year of trading. So yeah, we'll see how that works out. That's pretty much my plan, but that for this month earned me $892 in total. We go ahead and take a look at the monthly chart. We can see $892, 17.86% lower than the month of May, which is negative 33.54% lower than the month prior at 1634. So like I said before, I got kind of greedy during that month. It made $1,486. It cost me in May, and it's costing me now because once again, I had to, get back that position and play it out as best as I could, and that ended up, using some of my time, and time is money. So this month also was kind of a poor return. Assuming that we're able to do this trade this Friday, the time this video is being released, and we're able to roll it up and also make income, then we'll start trading safely and hopefully going back to making $800 consistently every single month from these SPY contracts. That's the plan. So that'll be a consistent $800 coming in from SPY. Like I said, I'm starting to focus more on the dividend side of the portfolio, especially after all the tariff stuff. I've decided to focus on the dividend side of the portfolio, mostly into SPYI, into BTCI, into JEPQ, QDTE, YMAX, because they've shown to be reliable investments when it comes to consistent income and growth as well. And you could, also manage how much growth you want on the year end, and also manage how much income you want. So they've shown their history. They've shown they could survive crashes, flash crashes like we had after the tariff deal. And of course, that's coming up again in July 9th. So we'll have to see. All I'm saying is you'll probably see that the dividends will continue to increase month over month. Option income will probably stay consistent at $800. That for sure will stay consistent at $800. It might fluctuate, up to $900, down to $700, depending on how the months go and how the weeks go. But SPY is going to stay consistent at $800 a month, which will then fuel into SPYI, JEPQ, BTCI, YMAX, QDTE, right? That $200 a week will go every single week into one of those positions, increasing share count, increasing dividend income, and of course, increasing this dividend income month over month. So hopefully from dividends in general, just dividends alone, hopefully by the end of this year, we could get up to $2,000 more in dividend income earned. They'll set us to be sitting at $2,800 a month. I would love to have more. Obviously, more income coming in. I think I'll be able to get more income coming in, especially if I take these $200 a week and put them into YMAX or QDTE. I think that income will increase a lot faster. and be a lot higher. But right now, I'm being conservative. $2,000 a month from dividends, $800 from SPY would be great. If we could get to $4,000 a month from dividends and options, that'll also be great. I think the way to do that for me would to get another contract in SPY. For me to get another contract in SPY, I would have to save up based on the income we're currently earning, right? So our total income, by the way, for June, if you haven't done the math already, is $2,501.97. That's negative 23.72% for the month prior. That's lower than May, lower than the month before that, 3,090. So it is a low month. It is one of our lowest months for the year, but it's okay. I'll take it. Middle of the year, I'll take one loss, one L. But we'll continue to grow anyways, month for the month, year. And we'll actually, well, I think we won't hit this number, for this year. I don't think ever again. But like I said, so I think the only way for me to get to $4,000 a month, would either to be add more income from outside sources, to do that, or would be to add another contract in SPY. But if you guys do or do not know, I'm trying to not add another contract in SPY before until I increase my income and dividends. The reason being is TSLY has a 45% maintenance ratio, AMZY has a 45% maintenance ratio on Robinhood. Aptly has a maintenance high 35%. GUI has a 35%. So they have high maintenance ratios, and due to that, that means you have more less margin to be able to use, and also more margin risk. Not only that, but also when you buy SPI contracts, it takes a lot away from your margin requirements, or your margin allowance, right? And also increases risk for your account. So that is also one thing I'm looking at now. So my plan, like I said before, is to increase the value of my shares. So if I'm able to be at roughly, I was looking at being at 75-25, so 75% stocks, ETFs, 25% contracts. If I'm able to get myself another contract, I would want it to be at that 75-25% ratio. And to do that, of course, I need to decrease my risk in TSLY, AMZY, anything that has high maintenance ratio. That's why I'm going more into YMAX, QDTE, SPYI, JEPQ, TSLY. I was actually looking at MAGY as well, MAGY from Roundhill, and that being because it has a low maintenance ratio, has good income, and seems to have growth. But of course, it hasn't had time to really show how well it performs. So this is another thing that I've been keeping my eye on is MAGY, MAGY. I've been looking at Ulti. I don't know about Ulti yet, because Ulti is a little risky. By a little risky, I mean a lot risky. People are saying it's stabilized, and I want to see that. I want to see that in the charts to see the stability and maybe some growth. So I'm gonna give Ulti some time, but I've been looking at MAGY because currently the QDTE and YMAX both sit at 14% of my portfolio. As you guys may or may not know, I try and keep every single ETF and stock at roughly 10 to 5%. So if I'm able to get those down to maybe 10, and then while I'm getting down to 10, that means I wouldn't be reinvesting back into them, or I'll be reinvesting them back into them at a slower pace. So I'll take those dividends and put it somewhere else. So yes, those are some of the options I'm looking at. But still, the goal is to be at $4,000 a month by the end of this year. Is it possible? Yes. Do I have to take more risk for that? Yes. Like I said, I'll probably have to get another SPY contract, and that'll cost me roughly $7,200 a month, or $702 to open, or 75. Let's say 75. And to do that, based on what we're earning currently, so around 25. Let's say we're earning conservatively $2,750. We would have to make, what is that? We have to make roughly 3 months. We have to save 3 months of income, 3 to 4 months. So that means we would get our contract by July, August. We get our contract by October. So of course our dividend income will be increasing month over month as well, assuming that everything stays consistent. So we might be even get it by September. We might get it by September. If I even throw some of my own outside cash into it, we could get a contract up in September. But and then of course that would take some time to ramp up. So that would increase our options contract income up to $1,200 a month. And assuming we would be at $2,000 a month, we would still be sitting around $3,200 a month. So that means we would also have to get our dividend income up to roughly $2,800 a month. So long ways to go. Is it doable? Obviously, it's doable. As we sit right now, we're sitting at $18,000 so far earned from dividends and options. Halfway year through, making roughly $36,000 by the end of the year, $40,000, assuming for any growth. So, yeah, making roughly $40,000 a year. Might, of course, not including taxes or value loss. Making like minimal wage for most states in the United States. So that's where we're sitting currently. I know I rambled off a little bit then, but just, speaking out loud, putting my ideas out there. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, supporting. You guys did great for the last video where we talked about YMAX and went into more into depth with YMAX. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. That's how much we've earned for the month of June, $2,501.97. The lowest so far for 2025. But once again, I don't think we'll hit this number ever again for the rest of the year. Assuming that dividend income continues to increase, option income stays stable, we probably won't see this number ever again. We'll probably stay above the $3,000 mark, but we'll have to see. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week for next week's video. Bye.